You're listening to the Woman Who Chat podcast with me, your host, Sandra Garlick. A podcast where I chat to women in business who share their knowledge and top tips, especially for you. I also share my own tips to help you gain visibility fast so that you appear to be everywhere, even when you're not. I'm delighted to bring this podcast to you each week to inspire and motivate you to achieve. Enjoy the podcast. Woman Who Chat is sponsored by Grow Radio. Grow Radio is an online radio station dedicated to bringing you a different podcast on the hour, every hour. I'm proud that Woman Who Chat is played on Grow Radio every Tuesday at 3 p.m. and Friday at 8 a.m. and to be a part of their podcasting community. If you want to listen to the station, explore their shows, check out many of the blogs to improve your podcasting skills, or get your podcast onto Grow Radio, head over to growradio.uk today. Welcome to Women Who Chat, and today I'm chatting all about keeping it simple in business. And you've just got me today. So I wanted to talk to you about keeping it simple and why that's a big thing for me right now. And I wanted to share some tips with you and some of my learnings to help you simplify things if that's something you want to do. And this came about last year when I decided to really simplify everything I was doing. I felt as if I was running from pillar to post, dabbling in this, dabbling in that. And I've been doing a lot of learning, and I was working on a contract, and I was trying to run my business, and I was doing different things. And I almost reached that point of burnout again. And I made the decision to cut the contract and simplify everything. And that was last July. So I spent about 3 months sort of refining everything and paring everything down. And I decided that this year my word was going to be simplify, and I've continued to do that. And I decided I was going to simplify everything in my life and in business. And I've joked to my family and friends and said, I'm going to pack my life into 4 suitcases, spring, summer, autumn and winter, so I can jet off at the drop of a hat to anywhere with a Wi-Fi connection. It's probably not going to come quite down to that, but I am getting rid of a lot of stuff. And I think the realization came personally was when I was clearing the house when my dad died, and then when my mum went into a care home, and I realized we carry a lot of stuff in our lives that we don't really need, and we can't take it with us. We accumulate stuff, we accumulate things because we think we need to hand them down or pass them on to others. But actually, when I spoke to my boys, they don't want it. They don't want to be lumbered with a load of stuff that they've got to hang on to in the hope that their children might want it one day. So that's the sort of personal stuff and the decluttering that's going on there. But then I thought, well, let's declutter my business as well. Let's make things simple. Why do things have to be so complicated? And I think a lot of people spend, and a lot of my clients that I work with come to me and say, I don't know what to do next, or they're just simply overwhelmed with so much that they could be doing and think they ought to be doing, but actually it just bogs them down and they end up wading through treacle and not getting anywhere. So I thought these tips might help you, and I'll share some of my experiences and what I've been doing. And yeah, I hope they help you. And if you want any support, you know where I am. So these 10 top tips are just very general, but I'm going to share some of my learning as I share them with you. So focus on what's important and what actually moves things forward. Now, you'll often hear me talking about, does it make the boat go faster? And it's something I picked up from the Olympic rowing team many years ago. And that was their philosophy. They didn't do anything unless they made the boat go faster. And I often ask myself that question, when I get an opportunity to do something, I focus on what will make the boat go faster. So you identify 20% of the activities that bring in 80% of the results. And you avoid spending time doing things that don't contribute to that growth or revenue. Now, I know you have to do some administrative tasks and you have to do some things to keep the business going, but there's nothing to stop you delegating and automating as much as you can. Anything that you don't need to put input into can be delegated or outsourced. And that's what I've done. I've gone through everything in my business and I'm still doing it. Don't get me wrong. It's not a simple thing to do. To make things simple, you have to put a lot of preparation in. And I remember somebody talking to me when I first started out in business, and they said, is your business bus proof? Could somebody pick up what you've been doing? And they probably couldn't, actually, because a lot of it's in my head. So I'm documenting, processing, systemizing, automating, and just making everything a lot more simple. So that's my first tip for you. My second one is all about your messaging. And I always say, whether you're messaging in your emails, whether you're messaging on your website, when you're speaking on stages, if people don't understand your message, then it's not going to get through. So the way I interpret this is, say, your message, imagine a stick of Blackpool rock. And if you've ever been to Blackpool or any of the seaside towns, you'll buy a stick of that pink rock and it's white inside. And usually it's got a word inside, whether it's Blackpool or whatever it is. And that word runs right the way through that stick of rock. That's what your message should be like. That's what your messaging should be. It should be really crystal clear wherever somebody bites into your business, whether that be on your website, on your social media channels, opening an email, that message should be clear. And again, I'm working on mine right now to make sure my message is clear. And as much as I want to create more women in business role models to inspire others, that's my mission. That's not my message. That's my mission. My message is, how to be seen, be heard, and be visible and be remembered. And if you power up your personal brand and you work on your visibility, then you'll make that happen. And that's what my messaging is all about, really. And people want to be more visible so they can get more clients so they can make more money. Very simple. And I always say, if a 5-year-old can't understand what you do, then make it more simple. Simplify it. So having a really crystal clear tagline really helps that. Somebody once suggested to me that I try and condense my message or what I do into 6 words. And I think that's a great piece of advice. Just wish I could remember who said it. And avoid all that industry jargon. When I was a lawyer, we were told to avoid legal speak. And I think it's really easy to slip into terminology, abbreviations, and things that mean something to you, but your audience has no idea what you're on about. So keep your messaging simple and keep it on, keep it on message, on brand, so that people know exactly what you do. I'm briefly interrupting this podcast. Did you know that speaking is one of the fastest ways to grow your audience? I create opportunities for you to find your story and share it on stage. If you're looking to gain experience as a speaker and deliver a keynote that wows the audience, join the Let's Get Visible Elevate Academy. Right now, you can join for just £25 a month for 12 months, or at a discounted price of £250 for lifetime membership. Yes, you heard that right. You will receive a lifetime of opportunities. Sign up at womanwho.co.uk/academy. Now back to the podcast. Another tip 3 is one offer, one audience. Now, I've kept this simple by my audience is the same for all of my offers. I don't need different audiences. And I know a lot of people, and you may have more than one audience, and it does make it more complicated when you're trying to address different audiences with different products and services, and your messaging gets confused. And so if you can have one offer for one audience, it just makes, if you're able to be more specific, it's easier to attract people to you. And, if you're solving multiple problems for multiple different people, your audience will just get confused. So it's really good to be crystal clear on what that message is, what that offer is, and who you're offering to, what problem you are providing a solution for. And once you've got that nailed, you can then start to look at growing, scaling, or wherever you're going, or diversifying into other areas. So I'm, again, simplifying this and making it really easy for people to understand. Tip 4, I talked about systems and processes. You know, if I got knocked over by a bus tomorrow, could somebody pick it up and see exactly what I'm doing? So templates for emails, templates for all your onboarding, automation. I've really embraced automation, and it's not impersonal. It's still coming from me. But if somebody buys a product, they get an email straight away. It's part of my onboarding. My onboarding isn't great yet. It's not wonderful. It's getting better. I'm working on it. You know, all these things, they've got to be constantly refined and reviewed. We're only just at the time of recording touching February. So I'm hoping that by the middle of this year, everything's going to be done. But it does take time as I simplify everything, as I refine everything, and as I document everything. Anything that's a recurring or repetitive task that I do day after day is going to be automated in some way. And if I haven't got the right tools to do that, then I'll find the right tools to do that. If I haven't got the right people to do that, then I'll find the right people. And I'm getting there. And it's making my life so much easier, because what I've been doing since last July is I've cut out working Fridays. And what I'm working really hard on right now is cutting out working Mondays as well. So I only work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And to be able to do that, I need to systemize everything. Number 5, saying no. And I used to say yes to everything and work out the how later. But actually, coming back to will it make the boat go faster? If it's not taking you in the direction that you want to go, then you're going to have to say no. No is a full sentence. Ask yourself, does this align with my goals and my values? Is it where I want to go? Is it something I feel comfortable doing? And if not, just politely say thank you, but no thank you. Or thank you, not right now, but maybe in the future. So it gets easier. The more you say no, the more it becomes easier to say no. And always ask you that question. Always look back at those goals. Is it taking me in the right direction, or is it just a shiny object? Number 6, make decision making quick. I am really good at making quick decisions. I always have been. I don't ponder for hours. If I see a pair of shoes I want to buy, I buy them. I'm not your shopper that will go around every shop and then go back to the first one. Not me at all. I do my research first and then I make the decision. Then I buy the product or service. And I tend to find that I take action quite quickly as well as a result. So how I make my decisions, everybody makes their decisions in different ways. As I said, I do my research, but I don't spend days and days on it. I will look at various things, I'll weigh things up, I'll look at the budget. Does it take me in the direction I want to go? Will it help my business? And will it get me closer to my goal? And if the answer is yes, then it's a yes. And I don't procrastinate over decisions and I don't overthink them. I think the more you think about doing something, is it right for me? Is it not? Well, I'll just ask another person. I'll ask another person. You can talk yourself out of doing things, which I have done in the past, but also by overthinking them, you can actually go into a negative place and start thinking of all the reasons why not, instead of looking at the benefits. In fact, one thing my mum did teach me when I was very young was to write a very simple list for and against. And I hugely advocate using a SWOT for any decision or any change you're going to do in your business. A SWOT analysis can really and quickly identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's really great for decision making as well. Number 7. And this is something I've learned very recently. Now, I've got a background in sales and marketing, and I was in sales and marketing before I became a solicitor. And I don't mind selling. I even used to be a telemarketer. I used to pick up the phone and make cold calls to banks, senior chairman of, and senior people in banks. And I used to sell them things. And I didn't blink. I just knew my product. I knew what I had to say. I knew what I had to do to get the appointment to go in and see them. But over the years, I've overcomplicated my sales process to the extent where I'm actually got frightened of sales. I got frightened to ask people to buy something. And I think I've overcomplicated how people buy from me. And that's something I've simplified over the last few months, and I'm continually simplifying. I've now got a sales process, and it's very simple. And it's a process that works for me. It won't be the same as everybody else's sales process, but it focuses on solving a problem, but I don't hang around. I make the offer and I invite people to take action. And if they don't make the action, decide not to take the action right now, I don't fall out with them. I don't say, I'm not speaking to you again. I make the buying process easier for them if they need it. But if they don't need it, they might not need it right now, but they might need it in the future. So I make it very simple, and I've removed a lot of the steps that were there previously. So most of my stuff now you can just buy with a click online. Other things, I make it very easy to buy. So it's my sales process now is very simple. Number 8, and I've already covered this a little bit actually, ditch the jargon and technical speak. I say to people here, use simple and relatable language. So I'm not going to use a load of jargon with you to get you to listen to this. I'm going to use simple words, non-complicated words, everyday words that everybody can understand, and just make my message clear really, so that when people speak to me, they don't need much explanation. They just need a conversation and they just need to be listened to. And I'm finding that I'm flipping the script, and I'm speaking in very simple language, making things very clear and inviting people to, just explain what they need so that I can tell them whether what I do is right for them or not. But I've definitely ditched the jargon and try not to use that wherever possible. Tip 9. Progress over perfection. How many times have you heard that? It comes down to procrastination and perfectionism again, and I am the worst perfectionist. I like to dot my I's and cross my T's, and that comes from working 20 years as a lawyer. We had to be thorough. Everything had to be right. And I've really struggled with this, to be honest. I've really struggled with done is better than perfect, but it's something that I've really worked on, and I've stopped procrastinating, and I realized that it was holding me back. It was slowing my growth. It was making things more difficult, and I was never ever getting to that point where I was ready. So sometimes it's better to done is better than perfect. Just get something out there. You can refine it afterwards. I was speaking to somebody yesterday about this, and they were spending ages getting something ready. And I said, you don't have to have it all ready right now. You can, learn from the process and build while you're doing other things as well. So yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be shiny. You don't have to spend the world on something. My podcast, for example, I could buy all sorts of technical equipment. I could have a soundproofed room. I could invest in something better for recording. I think you can hear me. I pay somebody to Grow Radio produce this podcast for me, but I could probably do it myself as well. I know how. I did learn how, but that's something I've delegated because I know somebody else can do it better than me and quicker than me. But quite often we wait to get all the shiny objects in place. We want all our ducks in a row. We want to dot those I's, cross those T's, and everything to look shiny and perfect. It doesn't have to be, because at the end of the day, people are buying into you and what you can, the problem you can solve. They don't care if your website is uber shiny, that all your socials are all in line and that your pictures are all amazing. Yes, I've done all that over time, but I've done it over a period of time. My very first website I built myself and it did the job. It's just that I've evolved over time and got people, to build a better website for me. You don't have to do it all at once. You really don't. And my last point really is all about measurements and metrics. And I think when you're building a business, you've got to constantly review. I'm always checking in. I'm always reviewing. I've shared many times that I work in 90-day chunks. And during that 90 days, I review in the middle to make sure I'm still on track, but I also review at the end and before I start my next 90 days as well. I look at my metrics. I'm constantly looking at my accounts. I look at them every week, if not most days, just 10 minutes, checking in, making sure everything's okay, making sure my revenue's okay, making sure I'm converting, looking at my client retention. I'm always reviewing my data. I capture that data. Too often we only look at one thing. We only look at the financials, or we only look at how many followers we've got on LinkedIn, or we only look at how many followers we've got on TikTok. I've learned very quickly that I was spending time on TikTok, for example. I'm not sure my audience is there. And although I've built up several hundred followers in a very short time with hardly putting anything on there, I looked at who they were and they're not my audience at all. In fact, most of them are men that live in other countries and have no relation to what I deliver at all. So they are not, I'm wasting my time there. Whereas on LinkedIn, I'm building up my followers there and they are my target audience. They are people I want to be around. They are people who are in my world. So measure the metrics that matter rather than the vanity metrics. And it's really important to remember that and to regularly check in with yourself as well. So I hope that's been helpful. And as I say, if you've got any questions or you ever want to comment on the podcast and you'd like me to cover a topic, then please reach out and just let me know. And I'll be back next week. Thank you for listening to the Woman Who Chat podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Join me next week for more inspiration, learning and top tips. In the meantime, visit womanwho.co.uk to find out how you can start your Woman Who journey or even feature on a future podcast. You can also join the Woman Who Achieves community on Facebook. The link is in the show notes. There, you'll get the opportunity to network, find support and make new connections with over 1,000 women in business. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's podcast. And if there are any topics you would like to hear, just get in touch with me, your host, Sandra Garlick.